So in this video, we're going to learn about the quadratic graph, or we could call it the quadratic function. And so it is a representation of values of x and y where it makes this shape. What this shape is called is a parabola. So when you've got that curve like this, we call that a parabola. And we've seen this before, ax squared plus bx plus c. This is now what we can call the quadratic function or quadratic graph. So when you've got a graph of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a cannot equal 0, then we can call that the quadratic graph. And there's a few points on it which are really important. We need to know what this point is. You can see where it cuts the y-axis, so we call that the y-intercept, because it's intercepting the y-axis. There's the equivalent 2 points on the x-axis. We don't call them x-intercepts. What we do in fact call them are roots. And there's two other things we need to worry about when it comes to the quadratic function. What they in fact are, it might not be clear from my drawing, they are symmetrical along a point like that, like an axis of symmetry. So this will be the axis of symmetry of the graph. So that entirely should be able to flip over onto that side. And what that also allows us to find is this point right at the bottom of the graph, which we call the minimum turning point. And so we will have this sort of graph if a is positive. Okay, so something like y equals 2x squared plus 5x plus 10, for example. A is positive, and therefore it is going to have a minimum turning point. Which leads us on to the next graph. What's the opposite of a being positive? Well, it's going to be that a is negative. And then so that means straight away we're going to have it flipped, and it's going to not be a minimum turning point, but it's going to be a maximum turning point. But before we get there, y-intercept roots axis of symmetry. It's not a very good one because I've not drawn it very well. And then the last bit, maximum turning point. Okay, so those are the parts of the quadratic graph that we need to learn and we need to understand. Okay, but that's all this video is on, was learning what the parts are actually about. Okay.